Los Angeles, a city that sparkled with dreams, fame, and endless light. But one night, the same city that glowed so brightly turned into a furnace that swallowed everything David had built with his hands and heart. The fire started without warning. The smell of burning wood mixed with screams and the distant wail of fire trucks. In just a few minutes, David's photography studio, the place that held years of creativity, love, and memories, was nothing more than ashes and smoke. His dream, his livelihood, his pride, all gone. He stood there helpless, holding his wife's trembling hand, with his two little daughters, Emma and Lily, crying softly beside him. Emma was only 7 and Lily just 4. Their tiny eyes reflected the firelight, not understanding why their father couldn't stop it. That night, David had nothing. No house, no savings, no job, only the clothes on their backs and the pain in his heart. The next morning, as the sun rose over the smoggy skyline, David gathered his family and went to an old friend, Michael, who lived across the city. Years ago, David helped Michael start his small business when he had nothing. David believed that life always comes full circle, and maybe today, that circle would bring him a little hope. When Michael opened the door, he was shocked to see David standing there, unshaven, exhausted, and holding 2 sleepy children. "David, what happened to you?" he asked. David told him everything about the fire, the loss, the struggle. Michael's smile faded slowly. He invited them in, but his eyes showed hesitation. Deep down, Michael was worried, not out of cruelty but fear. He didn't want a broken friend to become his burden. David sensed that. So before Michael could even speak further, David said calmly, "Michael, I don't need a place to stay for long. I just need a job, anything. I'll work hard. Just help me get one chance." Michael nodded awkwardly and said, "All right. Come with me tomorrow. I'll introduce you to my boss." The next morning, David put on his only clean shirt. His wife brushed the girl's hair with trembling hands. David looked at them, forced a smile, and left with Michael. At the office, Michael introduced him to the manager. "This is my friend David. He's hardworking and honest." The manager looked at David's worn-out clothes and tired face. After a brief moment, he said, "I'm sorry. We're not hiring right now." Those words cut deeper than the fire itself. Rejection after loss. It felt like life had turned its back on him completely. David thanked them quietly and walked out. The city was busy as always. People rushing, horns blaring, life moving on as if his world hadn't just ended. That night, as his daughters slept hungry, David sat outside the small rented room they had found. His wife Anna sat beside him, holding her tears. Then, without a word, she took off her jewelry, a necklace, 2 earrings, and a ring. "Sell these," she said. "Start something small. Don't give up, David. You've always created beauty. Maybe this time..." From nothing, David's eyes filled with tears. Those weren't just pieces of gold. They were her memories, her sacrifices. But he nodded because he knew she was right. The next morning, David sold the jewelry and bought a small wooden handcart. He filled it with handmade kitchen items, trinkets, and some simple jewelry from a local market. He didn't care about pride anymore. He only cared about survival. Every day, he pushed his cart through the streets of Los Angeles, calling out, "Beautiful handcrafts, kitchen art, jewelry at best prices." People ignored him, some smiled politely, others walked away. Still, David continued. His hands that once held a professional camera now gripped the cart handle, rough and blistered. In the evenings, when he came back, Anna would serve whatever little food they could afford. Their daughters would hug him, showing him their school drawings. That was the only moment he felt alive again. Days turned into weeks. The earnings were small, but enough to survive. Hope was fragile, but alive. One afternoon, while David was selling near a park, he saw a young boy and girl sitting on a bench. The boy was sharing his small packet of chips with his sister, breaking each piece into 2 equal halves. The girl smiled, her eyes full of innocent joy. Something in that moment touched David deeply. He saw his own daughters in them, the same love, the same bond, the same simplicity. Without thinking, he took out his old camera, the only thing that survived the fire, and captured the moment. That night, back in his small room, David uploaded the photo to his old photography page on social media. He wrote a caption, "Sometimes, the smallest acts of love are the greatest stories of humanity." He didn't expect anything. He just wanted to share something beautiful again. But by morning, the photo had gone viral. Thousands of people shared it, commenting on the emotion it carried. News pages picked it up. People wanted to know, who was this man who captured such pure beauty from the streets of Los Angeles? 2 days later, David received a message from a well-known studio in Los Angeles, Lumalens Productions. "Hi David, we saw your photo online. It touched millions of hearts. We'd love to meet you. Are you available for an interview?" David's hands trembled. For a few moments, he couldn't even breathe. His wife hugged him tightly, tears of joy rolling down her face. The next day, he went to the studio. The same city where he had once lost everything was now giving him another chance. The studio owner, Mr. Harris, greeted him warmly. "David, your photo reminded me why I fell in love with photography. You've captured something real, something rare. Would you like to work with us?" David couldn't believe it. With a shaky voice, he said, "Yes, thank you, sir. I'll give you my best." And he did. Every single day, he poured his soul into his work, capturing faces, emotions, and untold stories. Within months, his photos started appearing in magazines and exhibitions. People loved his art not because it was perfect, but because it was real. One evening, Mr. Harris called David into his office. "David," he said, smiling, "I'm planning to open another studio here in Los Angeles. I want you to run it, not as my employee, but as my partner." David was speechless. He looked outside the glass window. The same city that had burned his life to ashes was now shining for him again. He thought of his wife, of her faith, of his little daughters who had once gone to bed hungry. When he returned home that night, he hugged his wife and whispered, "We made it, Anna. We turned ashes into light." Months later, David's new studio opened, Phoenix Frames, named after the bird that rises from its ashes. He hired young photographers, especially those who had struggled like him. He taught them not just photography, but the art of seeing hope through pain. Whenever someone asked him about success, he always said, "Life will burn you, test you, and break you. But as long as you have a reason to stand up again, you can rebuild everything. Never let failure be your full stop." And every time he looked at his daughters playing near the studio window, he smiled, because they were the real reason he never gave up. No matter how dark life becomes, hope can be rebuilt from ashes. David's story teaches us that success is not born from luck, but from persistence, love, and belief. Even when the world turns to smoke, your courage can light it again. Never give up, because your comeback might inspire the world.